If there's one thing the Drishyam franchise loves more than suspense, it's piling on twist after twist. But when a film leans so heavily on surprises, does it make the experience smarter or does it start stretching itself thin? Drishyam 3 sits right on that edge. It has been over a decade since we first met Georgekutty, the seemingly ordinary man who used nothing but sheer instinct, observation, and stubborn love to protect his family from the fallout of a terrible mistake. In Jeethu Joseph's third installment, the legacy still refuses to rest. The film even opens on a surprisingly self-aware note. Georgekutty, now a financially stable and quietly confident man, becomes a film producer. And naturally, his first film is titled Drishyam. The opening 20 minutes play like a wink at the franchise's own success, dropping meta-references and cheeky nods that suggest the team knows exactly the kind of cultural phenomenon they have built. Despite this playful start, the core story is far more personal. Georgekutty is now trying to arrange a marriage for his elder daughter Anju. So many years may have passed since Varun's death, but the family's past is never truly silent, and every potential alliance seems to stumble under the weight of old rumors. Even though Drishyam 2 wraps things up neatly, Georgekutty once again senses that something is off. His intuition, the same instinct that has saved his family before, tells him that someone is digging into their past. And he's right. A determined journalist begins pursuing any lead that could reopen the case, pushing the family back into the shadows they worked so hard to escape. The film keeps circling its tagline, "The past never stays silent," and you feel that heaviness pressing down on Georgekutty. He's fighting on two fronts. One, helping his daughter step up into a new life, and two, making sure no ghost of past claws its way back to the surface. But unlike the sharp focused storytelling of the first two films, this installment drifts often. It stretches conversations, wanders into tangents, and takes its time pulling the threads together. The threat is real, but the journey toward it isn't always as tight as the franchise's earlier standards. Jeethu Joseph clearly understands the universe he has created, and the themes of perception, misdirection, and everyday intelligence of common people still anchor the story. However, the writing this time feels heavier than before. Conversations stretch longer than needed, certain explanations repeat themselves, and some of the twists are easier to predict, partly because thrillers have evolved dramatically in the last decade, and partly because the franchisee has already used its smartest tricks. The final 40 minutes aim for high-intensity drama, and while there are undeniably compelling moments, the repeated beats within the stretch make the tension feel diluted. After 2 hours of build-up, the payoff really leaves you impatient. There is suspense, but not every moment lands with equal force, and the pacing becomes noticeably uneven. However, the film shines most when it leans into emotional core, a father who will go to any length to protect his family, even if the world continues to underestimate him. Mohanlal's performance carries the film with remarkable control, and the meta opening adds a refreshing touch of confidence and humor. Whenever the story focuses on Georgekutty's resilience and his unwavering commitment to his daughter, the film feels compelling and meaningful. At the same time, the film's issues are difficult to overlook. The narrative is stretched far more than necessary, and several sequences could have easily been trimmed without affecting the core story. A few twists feel predictable. The final act loses momentum because the film keeps shifting between subplots instead of driving the main conflict forward, which makes portions of the experience feel exhausting rather than gripping. Coming to performances, Mohanlal is undoubtedly the beating heart of this film. He plays Georgekutty with a quiet fierceness that makes it impossible to look away. Every shift in his expression carries weight, and he balances fear, confidence, guilt, and calculation with effortless precision. There is a recurring idea in the film that his earlier victories were nothing but sheer luck, and the way he absorbs that accusation without reacting speaks volumes about the depth Mohanlal brings to this character. The supporting cast fits smoothly into the emotional rhythm of the story. Overall, Drishyam 3 is held together by a brilliant Mohanlal performance and the emotional strength of a man who refuses to surrender to his family's past. The essence of what made this franchise iconic is still present: the intelligence, the emotional stakes, and the idea that an ordinary man can outthink forces more powerful than him. But the film also struggles with its own weight. It takes far too long to get to the point, the pacing wavers often, and not all twists land with the precision the franchise is known for. Even so, the final moments make it clear that Georgekutty's story isn't over, and the lingering tension promises another chapter in this never-ending battle between truth, perception, and survival. At its strongest, Drishyam 3 reminds you why Georgekutty remains one of the most fascinating characters in Indian cinema. At its weakest, the film gets tangled in its own ambition. But one thing is certain, the past hasn't finished speaking and Georgekutty hasn't finished answering. If you like this review of Drishyam 3, please like, share and subscribe to TNM Cinema and Beyond, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below.